Have you ever crossed paths with someone so intoxicated by a sliver of power that they'd call the cops on you at 3 a.m.? Over nothing? I have. And let me tell you, there's a dark thrill in watching that same person, the self-crowned ruler of our quiet suburban enclave, unravel when they realize they didn't just pick a fight with some nobody, they tangled with someone who dismantles giants for a living. My name is Ethan Carter, and for nearly a decade, my life was a tightrope walk between high-stakes work and a desperate hunt for peace. I'm a federal investigator specializing in unraveling complex financial crime. A forensic accountant with a badge and the power to make a crooked CEO's worst nightmares come true. My job demands surgical precision, an obsession with details, and the knack for tracing money through corporate mazes designed to deceive. When I wasn't chasing fraudsters, all I craved was a quiet home, a comfortable chair, and the kind of suburban obscurity that lets you forget the uglier side of human greed. That's why I bought a house in Willow Creek, a neighborhood that promised tranquility. Or so I thought. The trouble started with Karen Walsh, the iron-fisted president of our homeowners association. Karen wielded the HOA bylaws like a warlord's scepter, her monthly newsletters landing in our mailboxes like royal edicts. My first run-in with her came days after I moved in. She showed up at my door, clipboard in hand, her face a mask of smug disapproval. The problem? My welcome mat, a plain black rubber one that said, "Welcome." According to Karen, citing some obscure bylaw, it was an aesthetic crime against the community. Mats had to be natural core fiber, earth-toned, and free of figurative designs. I explained I hadn't received the bylaws yet and promised to replace it, but her gleeful power trip left a bitter taste. It wasn't about the mat, it was the spark in her eyes, the rush she got from lording over her tiny fiefdom. Over the next few months, the citations piled up like kindling. My trash cans were 2 inches too close to the street. A wind chime, a gift from my sister, was labeled a noise pollutant. Each violation came with a sanctimonious note and a fine. I paid them, not because I agreed, but because I wanted peace. My day job was dismantling criminal empires. I had no interest in battling over lawn decor. But the real flashpoint came when I started working from home on a grueling case, burning the midnight oil in my office. That single light, glowing through my closed blinds, became Karen's obsession. She didn't know that my career had honed skills she couldn't imagine, skills in observation, research, and exploiting the arrogance of those who think they're untouchable. When she called 911 at 3 a.m., claiming suspicious activity, she didn't just cross a line, she declared war. She just didn't realize I was armed to the teeth with logic and evidence. The pounding on my door at 3:07 a.m. jolted me from a deep dive into a shell company's ledgers. My heart raced. Unexpected knocks at that hour, in my line of work, could mean trouble. Peering through the peephole, I saw 2 police officers under my porch light, and behind them, Karen, standing on her pristine lawn like a general in a nightgown, arms crossed, basking in the street lamp's glow. I opened the door, keeping my cool. The senior officer, with tired eyes and a graying mustache, looked apologetic. "Sir, sorry to disturb you. We got a call about unusual activity, strange lights, possible intruder." I glanced at Karen, her smirk radiating triumph. "Officers," I said evenly. "The unusual activity is me at my desk. The strange light is my lamp. I'm an accountant with a deadline." The younger officer peered inside, seeing nothing but a tidy house. Karen's voice cut through the night. "He's always up at odd hours. Strange comings and goings. It's a violation of our quiet enjoyment covenant." The senior officer sighed, weary of petty disputes. "Ma'am, a man working in his home isn't a police matter." Karen's face twisted with fury. "It's suspicious. He could be running an illegal operation." I locked eyes with her, my expression neutral. "Officers, I'll turn off the light if it bothers my neighbor." They nodded, eager to leave, and drove off as Karen shot me a venomous glare before retreating. The next day, I tried reason. I knocked on her door, hoping a calm talk could defuse things. She flung it open, snapping, "What do you want?" I kept my tone measured. "Karen, calling the police at 3 a.m. was out of line. We're neighbors. You could have called or emailed about the light." She laughed, a sharp, mocking bark. "The rules are the rules. You're a disruptive element. People like you don't belong here. I'm the HOA president, and I'll protect this community. Last night was a warning: follow the standards, or you'll regret it. She slammed the door, the scent of her over-fertilized roses lingering. That was it. The part of me that wanted peace went quiet, and the investigator woke up. Karen Walsh wasn't just an annoying neighbor, she was now a target. That evening, I opened a file on my encrypted laptop, Project Sparrow. The hunt was on. Every investigation starts with documents. I pulled Willow Creek's HOA articles of incorporation, county property records, and Karen's own purchase history. I sent a certified letter to her, citing state laws and demanding the HOA's bylaws, meeting minutes, and financial records for the past 3 years. While waiting, I began surveillance, not cloak and dagger stuff, just patient observation. Mornings found me on my porch, coffee in hand, watching the neighborhood's rhythm. I noted the landscaping truck Meadowview Gardens, owned by Karen's brother-in-law, Mark Walsh. I snapped photos of the truck's license plate and DOT number. I watched Karen's daily patrols, clipboard in hand, jotting down infractions. I saw her with her 2 loyalists, whom I dubbed her enforcers. I started chatting with other neighbors, casual talks while they grabbed mail or walked dogs. I never mentioned Karen, just asked about HOA fees or local contractors. A retired engineer, Tom, grumbled about a 30% fee hike with no visible improvements. A young mom, Lisa, whispered about a fine for her kids' sidewalk chalk drawings. A pattern emerged. Karen ruled through fear, backed by her small clique, while most residents stayed silent, dreading her wrath. A week later, a manila envelope landed on my doorstep. Me requested documents, dumped without a note. I spread them across my dining table, the familiar thrill of the chase taking over. The HOA's budgets, expense reports, and bylaws were a goldmine of amateur errors. I started with the money, knowing sloppy accounting often betrays fraud. The grounds maintenance line item stood out. Meadowview Gardens' contract had ballooned 40% in 2 years, eating up most of the fee increases Tom had complained about. A quick check confirmed Mark Walsh as the owner, Karen's brother-in-law. The meeting minutes showed no competitive bidding, no disclosure of the family tie, just Karen announcing the switch to Meadowview Gardens, approved by her and her enforcers. This was a blatant conflict of interest, but I needed more. I turned to the bylaws, cross-referencing every fine Karen had issued. The welcome mat rule, the windshield ban, the chalk as graffiti rule, none had been publicly posted or voted on, as required by the bylaws. Karen wasn't enforcing rules. She was inventing them, levying fines based on her own decrees. This wasn't just a power trip, it was fraud, a personal legal system she wielded like a club. I had her. A lawsuit felt too blunt. Karen's power came from fear and perception. Her downfall had to be public, driven by the neighbors she'd bullied. I needed to bait her into overreaching, exposing her arrogance. At a garden store, I found the perfect weapon, a foot-tall ceramic garden gnome with a red hat and a goofy grin. The HOA's aesthetic standards banned whimsical lawn ornaments, a rule Karen had made up. I placed the gnome, named Winston, in my flower bed, visible but harmless, and set up a discreet camera to capture her reaction. Within an hour, Karen stormed across the street, snapping photos and muttering furiously. Her email arrived soon after, a hysterical screed titled, "Final Warning, Flagrant Violation." She demanded Winston's removal within 24 hours or face a $1,000 fine and a hearing. I saved the email and footage, letting the bait sink deeper. Meanwhile, I built a quiet coalition. I showed Tom the landscaping contract and bylaw violations. His engineer's mind latched onto the data. "This is theft," he growled, agreeing to rally others. I approached Lisa at the playground, gently explaining the chalk fine was invalid and offering to help dispute it. Her eyes lit up with hope, and she joined the cause. Winston stood firm, driving Karen into a frenzy. 3 more unhinged emails followed, threatening legal action and ostracism. On day 4, she posted a notice for an emergency community meeting to address my flagrant disregard for HOA rules. She'd taken the bait, setting the stage for her own ruin. I prepared meticulously, turning my dining table into a war room. I printed damning documents, the landscaping contract, the business registry, the bylaws on rule changes, and a spreadsheet of Karen's fake fines. I compiled a timeline of her threats, synced with video of her raging at Winston. My presentation would be calm, logical, and devastating, a story of greed and fraud. I also called the police non-emergency line, alerting them to the meeting's potential volatility and Karen's history of misusing 911. I wanted them prepared if she tried to weaponize them again. The clubhouse was packed, the air thick with tension. Karen's enforcers flanked her at a table, and the same two officers from the 3 a.m. call stood at the back, summoned for intimidation. I nodded to them, noting the senior officer's flicker of recognition. Karen banged her gavel, launching into a theatrical tirade, painting me as a rogue who'd spat on the community's values. She lingered on Winston, calling him a tacky effigy and a slap in the face. She proposed a $1,000 fine, a lien on my house, and my banishment. The room gasped at her audacity. When she sneered, "Do you have anything to say, Mr. Carter?" I stood, portfolio in hand, and took the lectern. "Good evening," I began, my voice steady. "This meeting is about rules, how they're made, enforced, and who they serve." I projected the bylaws, highlighting the rulemaking process. These rules welcome mats, wind chimes, chalk drawings, gnomes we're never voted on. They're not laws, they're Karen's inventions, used to extort fines. The room buzzed. Lisa stood, voice trembling but firm. She fined me $50 for my kid's chalk. Others joined in, their fear-breaking. I showed the landscaping contract, revealing Mark Walsh as Karen's brother-in-law. Our fees are up 40%, funneled to her family with no bids. The crowd erupted, shouting questions. Karen screamed, "This is slander." I gestured to the projector. "Show us the bids, then." She had nothing. Then came the knockout. "When you abuse 911 to harass a neighbor, it becomes my business." I pulled out my badge. "I'm Ethan Carter, Special Agent with the Treasury Department's Criminal Investigation Division. I investigate fraud and embezzlement." The room went silent. Karen's face drained of color, her mouth agape. The officers stiffened, their eyes now on her. I stepped back as the neighbors took over. Tom demanded answers about the contract. Lisa called for her $50 back. Karen's enforcers shrank away, their loyalty crumbling. Tom moved to remove Karen as president. Hands shot up, nearly unanimous. Karen fled, sobbing, her empire in ruins. The aftermath was swift. I submitted my evidence to the DA, sparking an investigation. Karen put her house up for sale and vanished within a month. The new board, led by Tom, slashed the landscaping contract by 38%, refunded fines, and opened the bylaws for democratic review. Winston stayed, joined by flamingos and pinwheel symbols of freedom. My quiet life was gone, replaced by a community that waved and smiled. Karen's fatal flaw was underestimating me, assuming her tiny throne made her invincible. She learned the hard way: facts trump fear. What's the best way to handle a petty tyrant? Let me know your thoughts.